It's another special edition of Litter Media Live. It's the Fireworks Sponsorship Special here today, and we have retired Colonel Bob Leach with us.
Sure. Honored to be here.
I got that right. Good.
Yes,
VFW 108 is one of the sponsors for the Chillicothe Fireworks, which you're watching going on behind us here. And we'll find out not only why they're involved, but other things they do, too. There's a lot of things. You might be surprised. Stick close. More details after this from Classic Brands. It's always a joy to have Bob Leach with us to talk about things military service, and this is post-military service in many aspects. VFW Post 108 is right there on Main Street here in Chillicothe, and you've got a lot of members who have given service to their country.
Yes, sir. Dan, it's an honor to be here, first of all. Of course, members of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post itself are those who have served in combat zones overseas. We've lost our last World War II veterans since one of the last times we were here, but we still have some veterans of the Korean War, Vietnam War, and of course Desert Storm. And our younger members now are veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan. We also have a auxiliary that is for the children, the grandchildren, the spouses of people who served in combat. And we have a social program that individuals who are connected to veterans in some ways, but maybe those veterans did not deploy overseas during combat, they are allowed a place in the organization as well. We have over 1,000 members in those three organizations combined, and we donate money to local charities. And that comes from fundraisers we do, our charitable gaming as well. And we were proud this year to donate $5,000. We donated it to the Rotary Club, who was the clearinghouse. But the Chillicothe Rotary, we were honored to make that donation this year. We've done that many times in the past. But the highlights of that, so this is for America 250 this year. VFW Post 108 has existed here in Chillicothe for 107 of the 250 years that our nation has been in existence.
So next year is going to be a big year.
Yes, sir. It'll be 108 years old for Post 108. Not that many veterans of foreign wars posts in the state of Ohio are over 100 years old. And next year, coincidentally, our auxiliary, which started out as the Ladies Auxiliary in 1927, turns 100 years old. So the auxiliary is of Post 108 is 100 years old. The same year the Post turns 108 years old.
Right. Feel free to scoot up a little more closer to that microphone. You were in the Army, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What era did you serve?
Okay, I went into the Army in 1980 and served until 2002. So my combat eligibility was in the Bosnia operation, Operation Joint Endeavor. But I was in the military all through Grenada and then through Desert Storm as well, although I was training soldiers here in the United States who were going to head over there if that war had lasted longer, which fortunately it didn't. Yeah. So post-Vietnam, but prior to the buildup in Afghanistan and Iraq. Of course, I was in the military in Chicago on 9/11 in 2001. Being in a large city, we didn't know initially whether Chicago was going to be a target as well. So the small unit I was in did some things to prepare for that eventuality. Fortunately, it never happened. Most of the members of the Post served during the time I was in, prior to 2002, but then we also have a lot of our younger members who went into the military after 9/11, and so those are our younger members. And of course, we're always reaching out for new members. Anybody who's interested, especially at the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, we'd like you to reach out, talk to us. We are located right across from the Sack and Save Grocery on Main Street, and we would be thrilled to have you. Although we do understand that our younger veterans right now have families. They've got kids that have Little League games and a whole lot of school activities and things like that. And maybe the Veterans Club involvement is something that you would look to farther down the road. But we'd be happy to have you at that point as well.
Brad Fetters is your post commander?
Yes, sir. And Brad is a graduate of Zane Trace High School and a veteran of Desert Storm. And then we also have Chad Hutton is our senior vice commander, and Rob Cottrell, another Desert Storm veteran, is our junior vice commander. So that's our senior leadership this year.
So for people who are unaware, what does the senior leadership what does that pertain?
Okay. The commander of the post is the one who sets the direction for a given year. He chairs what we call our house committee, which is where the decisions are made on the donations that we want to give to local organizations. He's the one that has put a priority on getting our color guard more involved in community events. And his assistant, the senior vice commander, is ready to step in as commander if that should be necessary, but also is in a position where he can learn the requirements of that position and move on at the next regularly scheduled elections, which would be next spring. And then, of course, the junior vice commander is the third in that chain of command. I mentioned that Brad Fetters had put a priority on the VFW Color Guard. When the World War II veterans were still alive and in force, all of our veterans clubs in the local area, VFW Post 108, American Legion Post 62, American Legion Post 757, and AMVETS Post 4, they all had color guards. But with the decline in membership that happened as the World War II population began to thin out, and even as our Vietnam veterans started to get older, most of those color guards have gone inactive. And so the Post 108 color guard is the one that remains and is available to do ceremonies that don't include firing a 3-volley salute. We've got the Ross County Veterans Honor Guard that handles that, but the color guard would be available for school ceremonies. Sometimes a church will call and request our attendance. We've done groundbreaking ceremonies and things like that, where a rifle salute that's traditionally considered part of a memorial to our deceased veterans might not be appropriate for some of the things the color guard is appropriate for.
But you were carrying the colors at the Kenworth Truck Parade. You do many services like that.
Right.
Also.
That was our most recent event, was the Kenworth Truck Parade. We were proud to lead that. And you can expect to see the VFW Color Guard this fall at things like the Chillicothe Halloween Parade, the Bainbridge Fall Festival of Leaves, maybe some of the other things that some of the schools are doing. And it's frequent that the schools will have a Veterans Appreciation Night, either at their football games or at their basketball games, that the color guard might be available for that. Also, Veterans Day is a very busy time for all of the veterans organizations to be serving on color guards, honor guards, giving speeches at schools and things like that.
Yeah, I recall when my stepfather was a part of an honor guard, not color guard, but an honor guard. It seemed like he had 10 to 12 funerals a week. He was a World War II veteran, and that generation was just dying off so quickly.
That was a sad time, but it was very much an honor. We still do over 100 funerals in a year with the Ross County Veterans Honor Guard. We've got a full slate of funerals later this week and into next week. And it's our honor to be doing those at each opportunity that we get for that. And just to talk a little bit about the what the Honor Guard does for anybody that finds themselves in the position Dan just described, where a veteran passes away, normally the funeral homes, if it's brought up to the funeral home that the deceased was a veteran and the family would like to have military honors, they know all of the things to do. That involves ordering the flag that can be procured from the United States government, and that's the flag that goes over the casket and is folded and presented to the next of kin as part of the ceremony. And also the grave marker that goes on the veteran's grave is another thing that's provided free of charge to the family of our deceased veterans. At those funerals, we have a short military eulogy where we talk about the veteran's service, and then the marker is put into the ground. We have 3 volleys with the rifle squad. The bugler plays taps, and then we fold and present the flag to the family. And like I said, that is available free of charge to any honorably discharged veteran, and we're proud to do that for our veterans community.
Yeah, it's such a culmination to that person's life.
Yes, sir.
And I know my son has his great-grandfather's flag from when he had been buried.
It's truly an honor to be part of that, Dan. And there have been a few occasions where if somebody is cleaning out a house or something and they find a flag, they've been able to get it back to us, and we've been able to identify a family member that was in a different branch of the family that didn't get the flag and is honored to be able to have that at that point.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned to us earlier about making donations to the community. You folks have been really huge with all types of donations being spread amongst this Ross County community.
Yes, sir, and I'll take the opportunity to talk about that because the $5,000 that is part of the fireworks display that people in the community will see on the 4th of July was just one of several donations like that. As a 501c19 organization, we are allowed to have the charitable gaming, and the requirement is that we donate most of that to 501c3 charitable organizations. And of course, any school falls under that, and all of our 501c3s like Scouts and 4-H groups and the local ball teams, the Little League, we've donated heavily to those kind of organizations. Last year, we were close to $500,000 that we donated to our community charitable organizations. And in fact, a stipulation from the state of Ohio VFW Charities is we are the field agents for that charity, and they expect us to donate to the local area because they say, who knows better what charitable organizations are legitimate and are in need of funding that we can help support. So that is a major mission of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Of course, we do want to take care of our veterans and our veterans' families first, but then any community organization is third on the list of priorities. Fortunately, with taking care of our local veterans, we have such an awesome VA hospital right here north of town that meets so many of the needs of any veteran in the area that's in need of medical assistance. And also, we have an awesome Veterans Service Commission. The Veterans Service Office is located in the county building where people get their driver's license. We're on the other side of that building. And that office, the Veterans Service Office, can help a veteran who might have trouble, need financial assistance with utility bills, with groceries, with some specific requirements. They can help out on rent, and that is another asset we have for our local veterans. That's all funded with the property taxes that, without making a political announcement, we hope property taxes don't go away, because not only do we use that to assist our veterans in the area, but the markers that I showed earlier for our veterans' graves, those are paid for with the same funding. Property taxes that are paid by residents of Ross County that the assistance is made for.
You don't get enough credit, and here's what I'm saying. You guys and gals have served your country, but even in your post-service, you have continued to serve, and I think that's something that goes overlooked so often.
Well, Dan, and if the Veterans of Foreign Wars can help bring that to the visibility of the public, it's certainly something we need to do. In fact, one of the things we teach if we're invited to a school is if a student sees a veteran walking around, he's got a hat that says the USS John F. Kennedy, or somehow identifies himself to a military unit, or just says Vietnam veteran, to say thank you for your service. And then we're working with our veterans to, when somebody says that, to answer with thank you for your support. And it truly culminates properly the things that we did when we went to serve the nation. It all makes sense when we can come back and do things like this. In fact, there's a vignette. I remember graduating from high school in 1976, and that year the Rotary Club, Buzz Knowles, got this big fireworks display put on for the 200th anniversary of the country. I had not joined the military at that point. I was just a couple months away from being an ROTC cadet. And so here I am 50 years later at the 250th anniversary, being part of an organization that can help support having an awesome fireworks display in Yoctangi Park.
There may be that young man that's currently going to MEPS today, and they might participate in the tricentennial.
I'm counting on that.
At some point in time.
It's only 50 years away.
We wanted to take a moment because coming up Saturday, the Daughters of the American Revolution have procured a monument for Revolutionary veterans.
Yes.
And we're talking 300 men, and I don't know if there's any women
I don't
involved,
have
but
information
we
on
do
that.
know mostly were men, find themselves now being recognized here in Chillicothe for their service.
Yeah, and that's awesome because the names that are on that monument are all people, mostly from Virginia, who fought in the American Revolution and were promised pay and things like that. But at the end of the war, the country didn't really have any money. But they said, well, hark, we have land out in the Northwest Territory. And so you can have land out there. So Chillicothe was part of the Virginia Military District. And Nathaniel Massey and many others came here to get that plots of land. Now, mind you, there are a lot of people in Virginia that said, no, I'm happy on my farm or in my little business in Richmond. I will sell my land and have the money for that, but let somebody else go out there with the Indians and the wild animals and things like that. So Nathaniel Massey made quite a bit of money as a speculator, where he would buy land from other veterans and then turn around and sell it after he'd laid out the city of Chillicothe. But so the 300 names, roughly, that are on that monument, it's great that they're going to be recognized and memorialized in the Veterans Memorial Park, where, of course, our World War II monument is, the Korea and the Vietnam War monument, and we are near the last stages of the monument for our 4 that we lost in the global war on terror. And at that ceremony, that's at noon on the 4th of July, and with an earlier ceremony at the Ross County Courthouse, the Ross County Veterans Honor Guard will be there, and we'll be firing a 3-volley salute in memory of all veterans, but specifically that day to honor those who served in the American Revolution. You mentioned the women. I'm not aware of any that are on the monument that we're talking about for the Revolutionary soldiers. The women who were involved in the military in the Revolution were the legendary Molly Pitcher and Sergeant Corbin, who served kind of on frontier in place of their husbands or when their husbands were wounded. But in the Veterans Memorial Park, we do have one WAC, Women's Army Corps member, Betty Nolan, who enlisted in the Army in World War II and was tragically killed in a car accident in Georgia. That's the only females named on any of those monuments right now that I'm aware of.
That's something I was not aware of, so happy to hear that. Now, this, of course, is something that you can participate in this Saturday. They'll have the America 250 celebration at 11:30 on the courthouse steps,
right,
and then make their way over to Veterans Memorial Park. And I think they have it scheduled at 12:15, but
okay,
it'll take you a moment to get there. And if you need a ride for that, the DAR said that they can make sure that everyone gets there in place and time.
That's a possibility. So, and the Honor Guard may march from the courthouse steps over to Yoctangi Boulevard. And I just want to mention, because we're talking about Veterans Memorial Park, I think most of our listeners can envision that's across from the YMCA on Yoctangi Boulevard, which is getting construction work now, like many of the other places in town. But right next to that Veterans Memorial Park is the future site of the Chillicothe Ross Military Tribute Museum, that we are in the final stages of getting the lease and the supporting documentation to allow it to be turned over to the 501c3 organization, nonprofit agency, Chillicothe Ross Military Tribute Museum. And that will become a memorial to all of our young men and women who served in the military, and then especially tell the stories of those who lost their lives in the conflicts.
Yeah. So we wanted to get an update on that as well. So we're in the home stretch, it sounds like.
Yes, sir. And definitely
to make that happen.
Believe that that's the case. And in fact, as we take that last step, then we're going to be eligible for a lot of grants and things like that we aren't totally eligible for yet, because we don't actually have a signed lease that says we own the property. It's still an idea, and until it's more than that, the different foundations will be holding off on their donations until that step happens. So we're looking forward to that being done in the very near future.
Amen to that. Since you and I have last met, the Armory is taking a different shape now than what it had been before. You and I did an interview inside the Armory a few years ago with the Eyes of Freedom display that was there. Have you had a chance to walk in and see some of the changes?
I have not been inside with all the changes, but I've certainly heard about what they're doing. And that's exciting, too, because many people, first of all, the big cannon that's in front of the Armory, a lot of people think that came with the Armory. No, it actually predated the Armory. It was bought by a park director from in Chillicothe who just thought it would be a cool idea to have a Civil War era cannon in the city park. That was a very popular thing in city parks at that point. Later, people started thinking, well, parks should be a place of peace, and maybe you don't want military weaponry there. But the Armory was built as the Memorial Armory after World War I to honor and in memory of all from Ross County who served in the First World War. So it's the 1920s product. The Veterans of Foreign Wars started out meeting in that Armory. And then, of course, it wasn't too long ago, like you said, that we did the Eyes of Freedom as a way to memorialize that was specifically Lima Company and Aaron Reed. But that particular day, we were memorializing all of the military who had been killed in the conflicts since World War I.
Yeah. The Armory is extra special to the community. There's no question there. But as we were walking through with Mayor Luke Feeney on a walkthrough tour, what occurred to us is the Armory is celebrating its 100th year, and they're building the new pavilion. So in 100 years, you'll be celebrating a 200-year-old Armory and a 100-year-old pavilion. So there's much for the future down the road that we will probably not be alive
and
to
all
see.
of that will be on the 350th anniversary for the United States. So
exactly. So
got it all mapped out.
Fantastic. Anything that we've missed?
Gosh, and I think we have covered a multitude of subjects. It's been an honor to be with you today, and I look forward to continuing the support of the community.
Same here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your service. I don't know that I've ever actually told you that. Service not only to our country, but also through the education aspect with kids at Huntington for a number of years. And I'm sure you're happy with how Jeff McGill continues to keep the tradition alive.
Doing well with that.
Alive. So.
And I will do what I said when somebody says thank you for your service. I will say, Dan, thank you for your support.
I didn't realize how important that was until my son's graduation down at boot camp, and we went to Six Flags over Texas. The kids wanted to go ride rides. Next thing I see, people walking up to them, seeing them in their airman uniforms and saying, thank you for your service. I've done that ever since. Seeing it, when you see it, you understand it.
One of my highlights at Huntington School was going with a senior trip to Washington, D.C., and we stopped at the Marine Corps Memorial across the Potomac in Arlington. And I had a couple of students that were in the senior class that were about to enlist in the Marine Corps. I think they'd actually already signed their paperwork, so they only had a couple more months before they go off to their basic. And there were some Marine Corps veterans and even some active Marines that happened to be at the monument at the same time. And so I got that whole group together and just feel like that was a real bonding. And the other students who saw it, I felt the same way you did when they saw that brotherhood that was already existing and evident as soon as the group of students, active Marines, and veterans got together on an ad hoc basis.
That's where the brotherhood begins.
Exactly.
Bob Leach. Bob Leach. Thank you. So Paul Leach used to be involved with Chillicothe City Schools.
Very much.
Any relation?
Not a relation,
okay.
But I knew him and
Same
his
name.
family well.
Very good. Thank you for watching this edition of Litter Media Live. Thanks also to Classic Brands, our sponsor for this edition on Litter Media.